Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. I'm very excited to be here with you today talking about negotiation skills. This is our third free career coaching workshop, and it's going to be the final of the series. I can see everybody joining. Hello, tell me where you're joining in from in the chat. I can see the chat. I know that there's going to be a little bit of a delay, just I think a 10-second delay. So in case if I'm responding, if my reactions are a little bit delayed, that is why. But hi, tell me how's your day going? Where are you joining in from? And we're going to start in probably 1 minute, making sure that everybody's here. Oh, from St. Louis. Hello. Hi from Denver. Hello from Colorado. Very happy to see everyone here today. So let's get started. Let me just add my presentation to the stage. No, I like this view. I like this view the best. All right, so let's get started with negotiation. I want to know, tell me in the chat, what is your relationship with negotiation? How do you feel about the whole process? What are you trying to negotiate? Where do you feel you're succeeding? Where do you think you're lacking? Let me know in the chat. What do you think about negotiation? Like, what drew you to this presentation today? And while you're typing up your answers, I will. Feels awkward. Yes, Cynthia. Oh my God, it feels 100% awkward. I feel you, and we will address that in this presentation. If anybody else has any other opinions on negotiation, any other experiences on negotiation, also let me know in the chat. All right, let's get into it. This is what we're going to be talking today, what we're going to cover today. First, we'll talk about what is negotiation, and then we'll move on to understanding the variables. You'll understand what I'm talking about very shortly. Then we're going to get into BATNA. Let me know in the chat if you've ever heard about BATNA. If you haven't, don't worry. We will get to it. We'll discuss what BATNA is, how to create one, how to research it, all that good stuff. Then we're going to talk about preparation and strategies. That's going to be probably our largest section. And finally, we're going to close out with a negotiation challenge. So if that sounds good to you, let's get into it. All right, so first of all, hello. If we haven't met, my name is Masha, and I consider myself a negotiation student. The reason why is because I feel like all of us, no matter how much negotiation we've done in our lives or not, all of us are learning how to negotiate, because negotiation is both an art and a science. The thing is, like, negotiation has a rational side to it, but there's a huge irrational side to it as well, because we are dealing with humans, and humans a lot of times come to negotiation tables with their baggage, with their emotional, lots of different emotional variables. And so that is the problem. Negotiation is all about being exposed to more situations and learning from them and drawing from them and connecting the dots. You're never done learning. Some of the books that I've read on negotiation have been written by, FBI negotiators, or negotiators who were bringing deals from, I don't know, like lots of different international groups, terrorist organizations, and they still feel like they're learning. So, of course, when it comes to negotiation, I feel very much like a student. And I think it's a good perspective to have when it comes to any skill. We're always learning something. But the thing is, negotiation is interesting, because you might not realize that you're doing it much more than you think you are. Because at its core, negotiation is a discussion that's aimed at reaching an agreement, right? And this definition makes it extremely, I would say, vague, right? And extremely approachable. you start seeing that you are negotiating every single day because there's so many different discussions that you are having throughout the day that are aimed at reaching an agreement. I love this quote that talks about how everything is a negotiation because almost everything is a little bit of a give and take. And I've compiled some examples of negotiation, daily negotiation that you are doing right now. Daily, or some of them are not daily, but here they are. Let me close off my let me do this so that you can read all of them and I'm not covering anything with my image. But basically, negotiation could be agreeing what you want to have for dinner with your partner, or what movie to watch. Are you watching Netflix or are you watching something else? What show are you watching? That could be a negotiation, right? Because it's a discussion that is aimed at reaching an agreement. Changing a meeting's time and date. Let's say that you have a conflict. So that is also a potential discussion where you're trying to drive results. Bargaining for a better price with your cable or insurance provider, right? Like all of these things are negotiation. And then towards the bottom are the things that we typically think of as negotiation. So for example, the conversation with your boss where they're trying to add something to your plate and you're like, but I physically cannot fit anything else on my plate. So you can't, you need to push back, you need to reach an agreement around what are your responsibilities, what are the priority tasks that you can pay attention to. Asking for a salary increase, right? Or a promotion. That is probably one of the first examples of negotiation situations that comes to mind when it comes to career, right? Or let's go in a completely other end of the spectrum from agreeing for on what's for dinner, negotiating a high stakes merger. I don't know about you, but I've been rewatching Suits recently, and they're negotiating a lot of things like this. And it's like, well, how often do you get to negotiate a high stakes merger or something like that? Unless you're a lawyer, unless it's part of your job, probably not very often. But we know that that's also negotiation. Let me put myself back into the presentation view. But ultimately, negotiation is something that we do every single day. And I love this quote by Chris Voss, who wrote the book Never Split the Difference, which I highly recommend if you are if you want to improve your skills in negotiation. I love how this quote, and I removed the middle part in this quote, as you can see. I love how this quote breaks it down into two parts to negotiation: information gathering and influencing behavior, right? Those are the two things that you are essentially doing when you are negotiating. That is very interesting when you start thinking about it this way. And while we have thought about influencing behavior, right, influencing the outcomes, a lot of the times we don't think about the information gathering, and information gathering is vital. I don't remember the statistic, and I should have probably prepared that statistic, but I remember something like 90% of negotiation happens before you enter the room because it's all in your prep. Hi, Vladimir. I can see you joining us as well. And so information gathering and influencing behavior, those are the two parts to negotiation. And ultimately, negotiation is nothing more than communication with results, a discussion to reach an agreement, right? So you are exchanging information to reach some type of outcome. That is what negotiation is. And as you've probably noticed, I keep on talking about building upon your previous knowledge, upon your previous experience, and just being exposed to more situation, because negotiation is a muscle. Just like confidence is a muscle. If you join my other stream on free career coaching workshop on confidence, if you joined my free career coaching workshop on networking, they're all a muscle. So is negotiation. If you haven't joined those streams and you want to join them, you can find them on my channel where you are right now. So after this stream, you can go into my channel, Stereotype Breakers, and find them there. Regardless, negotiation is a muscle. It's all about starting somewhere and building from there, building your confidence, building your go-to phrases, building your toolbox of how to react, building your muscle on doing the research and information gathering, which we will speak about in a second. But negotiation is a muscle. Nobody is born being a good negotiator. People are either exposed to negotiation early on in their childhood or early adulthood, or they're not, and they need to build that skill from. Everybody needs to start from zero at some point, right? You're going to be a newbie at some point. So it's all about getting started and just growing that muscle little by little. So let's talk about understanding the variables. What variables? Okay, I see that there are a bunch of people live. Let me know in the chat. What do you think of when I talk to you about variables? What variables are there in negotiation? I'll take a sip of water in the meantime. What variables are there in negotiation? Anybody? Okay, I will continue. If you think of variables, please let me know in the chat. I would love to see what comes to mind when you start thinking about variables. Okay, what emotion? Oh, I see some responses. The emotions that you have that you have to identify of the other person. What is being negotiated? Who are you with the people you are trying to negotiate with? Honestly, those are fantastic variables, right? Emotions and your behaviors, though, those are all really great, wonderful things. I am talking more about what's on the table, but those are important variables to consider as well, right? We talked about how there's like rational and irrational variables. In this particular case, I'm talking about the variables that you have to play around with when it comes to solving the problem. And so I want to start this little section with this quote by Chris Voss, again from that same book, Never Split the Difference. Successful negotiation is not about getting to yes. It's about mastering no, because Chris Voss says that negotiation starts when you hear a no, right? That's when you hear that there's conflict, right, between two parties. There's a no. And understanding what is the path to agreement, understanding what variables you have to make that agreement happen. And to your point, emotions and your behavior and how people are reacting to you are 100% part of that equation. I wanted to show you this image of an iceberg, because a lot of times when we're thinking about negotiation, we think about the tip of the iceberg. We think about the rational, we think about the most obvious things that we can negotiate on, but we don't see the bottom of that iceberg. And the bottom of that iceberg could be things that are for negotiation, but you just don't think about them. And in order to find them, you need to do your research, or, like you correctly pointed out, the emotions of the other person, the goals of the other person, the motivation of the other person. And it's not just the, like, let's say that you're negotiating a salary. It's not just the company emotions, but it's also the person who is making the decision. What are their, not the company like objectives, but the person's emotions? Because what is this person aiming for? How does this outcome, how would this outcome make them feel? How would it make them look? How would this outcome make them look like in front of their superiors, their leadership, their peers, right? So all of these things are variables, like you correctly pointed out. So I really want you, next time you are thinking about negotiations, really think about the variables that are at play. First of all, what can they offer you, right? If you're thinking about those kinds of variables, and what can you offer them? The whole range of variables that are at play here. So, for example, in a salary negotiation, it could not only be the salary itself, but also equity, time off, or any other benefits. I don't know, parental leave, like negotiating some of that. Any part of this equation can be part of the solution. And think about what you can offer them. Same thing. But then also consider the emotions and all of those emotional variables, all of those like status variables that are at play. The next time you are sitting down at a negotiation table, really think about those variables. That is key. That is very important to consider when it comes to preparing for negotiation, which we will talk about shortly. But now I want to talk about BATNA. Who has heard about BATNA? Let me know. I will take a sip of my coffee. BATNA. BATNA is a concept that came out of the book called Getting to Yes by William Ury. And he is a professor of negotiation at Harvard Business School or Harvard University. Anyway, he's at Harvard. He's a professor at Harvard, and he teaches negotiation right now. And BATNA is a concept that he came up with. Any guesses what it is? Okay, before people Google this and paste their answers, let's talk about BATNA and what it stands for. Because I want you to learn. I don't want you to look things up. Okay, so BATNA is best alternative to a negotiated agreement. Basically, the outcome for you and for the other party if the agreement isn't reached. New concept. Okay, great, wonderful. I'm glad you're learning something. So BATNA is the best you can do if you don't reach an agreement here. So what is your alternative? What else is your plan B, essentially? And we'll look at some examples of BATNA in a second, but why BATNA is important is because it helps you understand your options, right? It helps you understand, it helps you come to a negotiation from a place of power. Let's say that you have let's say you are negotiating an offer and you have a preferred offer, but then you have a plan B offer that you can go back to. And because you have options, or because you're still interviewing with some other companies and there are great positions, that gives you confidence in the fact that this is not the only solution. And that eliminates desperation, for the lack of a better word. And people can really sense it. People can sense it when you're desperate. And, it gives them confidence. It gives them power as opposed to you. So understanding your best alternative to a negotiated agreement, or BATNA, allows you to have that power and confidence. Even if it's walking away with nothing, but you still understand that you're not desperate. You have something to fall back on. And if you think through the BATNA for the other party, it gives you insight into the other side's point of view, which gives you empathy and additional information on their goals and motivations. So, for example, let's say that the BATNA in the job offer is let's just get to the example. I have it in there. Salary negotiation for new role. Let's skip to that. So your BATNA, right, is to continue interviewing, delaying the start of work and delaying the start of you getting paid full time. And their BATNA is to, if they don't reach this agreement on salary, if you and them don't work out something that works for both of you, then their BATNA is to continue interviewing more candidates, which means that they will waste more time finding the right candidate, interviewing that candidate, and so not filling the role for another few months, which probably results in loss of productivity, loss of something. There are losses on their behalf too. So understanding this BATNA for both you and them helps you understand what is at play here, and really understand their frame of work, and allows you to have empathy for the person who is negotiating with you. But in the example of the dinner, right, the dinner decisions with you and your partner, let's say that you don't live with this partner. If you don't reach an agreement on what to eat that night, let's say tonight, your BATNA is you're probably not meeting up and having dinner together. You did not agree on what to eat together. So your BATNA is to cook whatever you have in the fridge, and their BATNA is, let's say they have leftovers from yesterday, so their BATNA is to warm up yesterday's leftovers. So you see, the more painful the BATNA is, the more you don't want to do the BATNA, right? The alternative, the more motivated you are to reach an agreement. And understanding how painful the BATNA is for the other party, and how much they prefer an agreement, really helps you understand them, and really helps you get empathy for them, and therefore talk about solutions that are mutually beneficial, which we'll get to in a second. Or changing a meeting time and date. So let's say that this is a sales call for the other party, and for you, you are doing research. So let's say that you're trying to get a new tool, a new tech tool for your organization, for your company, and you are doing your research. However, you've ran into a situation where, in order to get more information, you have to get on a call with the sales representative because they don't share enough information on their website publicly. So your goal is to get information, and for them, it's a sales call. You're a lead. So if an agreement is not reached, let's look at BATNAs. Your BATNA, you cancel the meeting if you can't find a time and date that works for both of you. You cancel the meeting and you do research on your own. You don't know how you're going to do it, but that's your alternative. Their BATNA is, because there's a salesperson, they have one less lead to talk to, right? You are part of their metrics, part of their numbers. And so they need to reach out to more people to make sure that they're doing, they're reaching their numbers, they're reaching their target goals. So these are the BATNAs. Let me know in the chat whether this is a concept that you're starting to understand, whether this is clear, or if you want some more examples. And after I understand how you feel about this concept, we can continue going ahead. So let me know. Vladimir, what do you think? All right. Insightful. Nice. Cynthia. Okay, great. Wonderful. Is anybody confused about this? How does this feel? If you are confused, let me know in the chat and we can revisit it later. But for the sake of making sure that we get everything covered in this session, I'll continue going. So let's do this. Let's get into preparation and strategies, because that is so important. My dog is just stretching in the background. Preparation and strategies. Like I said, preparation is, most of the negotiation happens when you are preparing, in that state of information gathering. And information gathering does not end at preparation. However, it starts there, and it's a big part of it. Because at the end of the day, information is a negotiator's greatest weapon. It helps you understand what cards the other team is playing with. And it's always a good idea to let them reveal their cards before you reveal yours. Yes, we are a team. We are trying to problem solve. But at the end of the day, we want to make sure that you are getting what you want. And the more information that you have, the better is for you, because you now know what to do with this information. So when it comes to preparation, it is very important to prepare the following. First of all, your value and your weaknesses, to really understand your market value And what unique skills and perspectives are you bringing to the table? So let's say with the job offer, right? That's the first thing that comes to mind when it comes to negotiating. Really understanding why you are that candidate that ended up getting the offer as opposed to the others, and really understanding the market rate for candidates like you, the market salary rate, doing your research and understanding, okay, so candidates like me with this number of year of experience, with these kinds of skills, this is how much the market would pay them in, and of course, geographical location is important, but all of that, the combination of all of that is super important. Also, unique skills and perspectives, they make you more, the more unique you are, the more scarce you are, the more valuable you are, because it's harder to find a candidate like yours, right? Like you, and therefore it affects their BATNA. So now you understand the concept. It's very interesting to see how that all trickles down. But at the same time, I want you also to understand what are your weaknesses and be very clear about how you're going to address them, right? Let's say that public speaking is something that you struggle with, and that's something that is your weakness. So think about how you're going to address them in case if that comes up. Understanding what your weaknesses are is almost as important as understanding what your value is, as long as you are thinking proactively about how to address them. Your weaknesses don't define you. Your weaknesses are just areas that you can focus more attention on. And the more effort you put into them, the better. And a potential employer in this case will really appreciate your proactive. I mean, you don't have to come in and state any of this, right? But understanding them, if in case if it does come up in a conversation, and understanding how you're going to address them. So let's say that you're going to take a public speaking course or Toastmaster course is really important. Then preparing your non-negotiables, your desires, and areas of flexibility. Really analyzing, like once you write down all of the different variables that are at play, understanding and analyzing what are the things that you're not going to budge on. What are your non-negotiables? What do you like? For example, a certain number of days of PTO is your non-negotiable. You have to have that, and it's just not even a discussion. That is, think about that. What are your non-negotiables? That is an example of non-negotiable. Where are you flexible? What areas are you flexible on? Let's say that maybe you are flexible on travel. You can travel more than once a quarter or something like that, right? In the example of, let's say, dinner, right? Thinking of your the dinner for tonight, the non-negotiable could be that you want something with carbs. Okay, let's say that you really want some carbs. So that's your non-negotiable. But you could be flexible on the cuisine, so you can go for Italian and get a pasta, or you could get something a rice dish. This is an example of like a non-negotiable, but what can you be flexible on? And then what would be nice to get, right? That is your stretch that you're going to move away from. And then finally, what is your walk away point? At what point are you just like, nope, we have not reached an agreement and I'm going to go for my BATNA. That's it. So think about all of those three things. Additionally, do your research and prepare the other party motivations and goals. Think about what do they value, right? That connects with your market value. That connects with what is important to them. What are they looking to get? What are their goals? What are their motivations, desires, and must-haves? Just like for you, what are the things that they are looking for in a candidate, or what is your partner looking for in dinner? What is it, right, that they're looking for? Because once you understand their goals and once you know your goals, you could find solutions that are in the middle, that work all together. We'll talk about that shortly. But really think about the other party. What are their motivations, goals? What are they looking for? Because this way you are able to either demonstrate how you're filling the gaps or reiterate those goals to them and find a solution altogether. And then finally, BATNAs for you and the other party. What will the lose-lose situation look like? You don't reach an agreement. What happens if that happens? But also think about what is a win-win situation. Like in what situation do both of you walk away happy? We will talk about that shortly, but these are the things that I want you to prepare for your next negotiation. And we have a list of these things at the end of the session in the challenge section. So let's continue going. And take a sip of water. But I want to touch on the empathy side of things. You've correctly pointed out that there are emotions at play. Negotiation is not a rational activity. And, when I was reading Never Split the Difference, Chris Voss, his bosses were, who were, master negotiations, some of the best negotiators in the world. They were doing a training for the, I believe, the New York Police Department. And they asked them how many they asked them to raise a hand if they've ever been in a situation where the negotiation was purely rational. Maybe 2 hands went up. And then they asked how many of the negotiations that they've been in were irrational. And that was the winner. That was a clear winner. Most of the negotiations have an irrational component because they have people on both sides of the equations. And people have egos, people have emotions, people have issues with status and all that fun stuff. So negotiations are mostly irrational because you are negotiating with the person who has their own goals, fears, dreams, triggers. And they also want to look good in front of their peers, in front of their leadership. They want to make sure that all of these things are preserved for them and they come out looking like a winner. So understanding all of those different motivations, all of those different emotional aspects of this conversation will help you understand the other party better and how you can reach a solution that works for them and for their company, making them look and feel good. It's all about that. It's all about understanding what will make this other person look good and feel good. How do we reach that decision? So empathy is key. Chris Voss in his book talks about tactical empathy, really being tactical about understanding the other person, understanding the other side and what they're feeling, what they're looking to achieve, how are they looking to feel when they walk away, and really making sure that the solution that you're proposing, solution that you're working on is helping them get there because you already know their BATNA. And so some of the strategies when it comes to negotiation are mostly around information gathering and understanding the other side, not only from the rational perspective, but also irrational perspective. So the first one is listen, because information, like we have already covered, gives you power. And listening, of course, you've done your research, right? You've done your preparation, but your research can only go so far. Some of it is theories, let's be honest. So listening is the only way to gather true information that you can then use in addition to your research. So listening to what the other person has to say is very important. The FBI uses multiple people to listen to whenever there's a negotiation with, let's say, with a terrorist, right? They listen in groups because everybody, like whenever we bring ourselves to a conversation, we are biased humans, and we can there's this selective hearing mechanism that just kicks in. And so if FBI uses multiple people in negotiations to listen, this means that you have to be doing a really good job of listening. And of course, don't give up. Don't think, okay, well, if FBI needs multiple people, how am I going to do this negotiation? Just practice listening, active listening, and really trying to dig out as much as information as possible. Then ask questions, right? You've done the research and you understand where, what areas your information, in what areas your information is incomplete, or where do you have theories. So ask questions to really get the true information, to understand, to confirm some of your theories, to confirm your theories about their goals, motivations, all of that stuff. Because you want to get rid of as much information asymmetry as possible. Information asymmetry is where the two parties have asymmetrical information. So for example, in the salary offer, in the job offer, salary offer example, the company normally has the majority of information. So your goal is to get as much information as possible so that you're kind of equals to some extent, to equalize the playing field. So ask those questions. You can always ask a question that says, hey, like from what I understand, your goal is to do X, right? And then see if they confirm it or not. Be present. That's another thing that is very important, because a lot of the times when we're approaching a negotiation table, we are so lost in thought, thinking about our arguments, our rational arguments that we're going to present to just blow away the other person, that we get carried away and we listen to that, and we don't listen to the actual person who is giving us that information right now, right? We end up selectively listening, and we end up just carried away, not here. So be present. Actively bring yourself back with whatever tools you have, like breath, or just focusing, feeling your body against the floor or something like that. Bring yourself back, just stay present in order to really listen to the information, really get the information that you are being told. Hello, Christian. I can see you're from Toronto. Hello, hello from Denver. All right. And the final strategy that I want to talk about is listen again, because as we talked about, it's not about the rational, right? It's also about the irrational. Really listen for not only what the person is saying, but how this person is saying it. Listening for emotion, listening for any other irrational information that you can get. For example, the way they talk about their leadership could give away that maybe they're in conflict or they want to impress them. And by understanding this information, you're going to be able to use it in order to present certain factors. Like you can all of a sudden realize that this person is trying to impress their leadership and they're looking for a candidate that has X skills, and you have already prepared your strength. You know what you bring to the table. So you can easily connect the dots when talking about the solution, because you understand where this person is coming from, what they're looking for, what will make them look and feel good, and therefore present them with an opportunity to do so. How does that feel? Let me know in the chat. I will take a sip of water. But ultimately, negotiation is all about problem solving, right? It's a discussion that is supposed to lead to some type of outcome, some type of results. So it's very important to think about, how do you reach a mutually beneficial solution? And one of the techniques that I really love from Getting to Yes by William Ury is about becoming a team, truly putting yourself on the same on the same side of the table, right? As opposed to you being on opposite sides of the table and trying to pull the discussion, pull the win-win situation towards yourself. Really getting on the same side and facing the problem, because you're trying to solve the problem. You're not trying to like belittle the other person. You're both there to cooperate and to solve that problem collaboratively. So what you can do is you can state your goals, you can state the other person's goals, and really make them understand that, okay, great, these are your goals, these are my goals, and this is the problem we're facing. Let's solve this problem together. Let's think about it. Let's brainstorm. How can we walk away with a win-win situation? Because it's so much easier to come up with something innovative and out of the box if you put your brains together. Because right now, both of you have incomplete information. But once you put yourselves on the same side of the table, you're working together collaboratively and you have access to a much wider range of information. All of a sudden, this person is much more likely to share what variables they're dealing with. What would a win-win solution look like for them, right? And they understand you. You generate empathy for them. You have empathy. You demonstrate that you have empathy for them. So it's a win-win solution from the start. And like I already mentioned, negotiation is not just winning. It's about reaching an agreement. It's a discussion that reaches an agreement. And the best outcomes are when both parties leave the table feeling heard and satisfied, when it's a win-win solution, where both have reached something that is in their interests. Let me know how you feel about that in the chat. I will take another sip of water and we will move on to talking about women in negotiation, which will be our final topic before the challenge. So if you have any questions on the topic, prepare them, because we're going to do a Q&A after I present the challenge. All right, women and negotiation. I'm sure you've heard a lot of discussions about women and whether they're inferior or superior in negotiation. The thing that women have going for them is the fact that they tend to adapt the cooperative approach versus competitive approach. Competitive approach is mostly correlated with male negotiators, and cooperative approach where you really collaborate, right? You join forces in solving the problem, really understanding what is at play. That tends to be more of the women's approach. And there's research that has shown that approach, the cooperative approach, tends to have greater outcomes for all parties. It grows the pie. It helps everyone win, and it also strengthens relationships, making sure that you continue doing business together and all that stuff. A good example of this cooperative approach and putting yourself on the same side of the table is from William Urey's book, Getting to Yes, about opening a window in the library. Weird topic for negotiation, but it is a negotiation. There were two people in the library, and one of them wanted to open the window, and the other one was just like, no, absolutely not. And they were just butting heads for the longest time, until the librarian came over and was like, what is the problem? One of the people explained that they want to open the window, and the other said, no, I don't want to open the window. So she dug deeper, and she asked, why do you want to open the window, and why don't you want the window to be open? Turns out the first person was just hot. They needed some fresh air. It was too hot for them. The other person, so they wanted to open the window. The other person did not want a draft. So what did the librarian do? She went and opened a window in another room so the fresh air could come in, but there was no draft, and both parties were happy. You see what I mean about growing the pie? There's always a solution. There are always variables that can be tweaked to make sure that everybody's happy, everybody's goals are achieved. And that is something that women really excel at, because a lot of the times we want, we do have that people pleaser gene, which I'm not saying is good, but we want to maintain relationships and we want to avoid conflict. So we look for solutions like that. So really dig deeper to understand what is the other person's goals, what is one person's goals, what is the other person's goals, and find a solution that works for all of them, works for everybody in a cooperative approach. The other thing that women have going for them is, and something that they can use as a superpower in negotiation, and something that others can also use in negotiation as a superpower, especially minority groups. Women tend to be, and I put this in quotation marks, tend to be more aggressive, insistent, persistent when negotiating for on behalf of others. So like their community, their family, etc., their teams. And this stems from the fact that women are afraid to be labeled as selfish when it comes to negotiations. And it is very true with the double bias that do exist in the workplace. Unfortunately, it is very easy to get labeled that way. However, knowing that fighting and advocating for your team, advocating for your community, for your family, gives you power, and it makes you look less selfish because you're advocating on other people's behalf, that helps you mitigate that double bind. And it gives you a power boost when negotiating for yourself and for others. So whenever you're negotiating, let's say salary negotiation, you'll be like, but that's purely selfish. No, it is negotiating for your family. It is negotiating for that community, for someone else. So think about it as not negotiating for yourself. Of course, negotiate for yourself, but if you need that power boost, advocating for others, negotiating for others will give it to you. And then finally, setting the right goals. There have also been studies that show that women tend to aim lower than men when it comes to negotiation or just goal setting in general. They tend to be less ambitious. I don't want to, make blanket statement, but that's what research shows. And so in order to overcome that, we need to benchmark. We need to understand that we're probably aiming lower than our male counterparts. We're probably aiming lower if we're minorities than our majority counterparts. So do some benchmarking, do research. This is why it's so crucial, because then you understand the true market value of what you're trying to negotiate for, the true potential of outcomes. And that is how you mitigate that problem as well. So setting the right goals stems from doing your research, which we've already talked about. So I am going to give you a challenge that I want you to complete for the next time, so that you're ready for the next time that you are negotiating. And prepare your questions, start typing them up if you want, so that I can address as many as I can in the remaining time. So my challenge to you is, first of all, think of an area in which you want to improve your negotiation skills. It could be at your job and conversations with your manager. It could be also at work with in conversations with other stakeholders. It could be a salary negotiation, it could be offer negotiation, or it could be negotiating with your partner on something, right? Think of the area in which you want to improve your negotiation skills. And then do your research, preparing what we've already talked about. Your value, your market value, and your weaknesses, your non-negotiables, your desires, what would you like to achieve, like in an ideal world, where do you want to get? and areas of flexibility, the other party's motivations and goals, really thinking that through, and like, the emotional aspect of it and all that stuff. And finally, the BATNAs for you and the other party. What is the BATNA? What is the best alternative of no agreement for you and the other party in this particular scenario? And really preparing that, because the thing is, like I said, preparation is key, and it's almost 90% of the job of getting you to the outcome that you want. But we don't prepare enough, and preparation is also a muscle, right? Understanding, like, having done it once will enable you to use that template, use that formula to prepare again when you're in the same situation. So right now we are just preparing for the sake of preparation. We're just doing it so that next time we need to prepare, we already remember us doing it before, and we know that we can do it. So I want you to prepare these things. Take a screenshot if you'd like. This video will also you'll be able to return back to it in using the same link, so you can come back to it and take a screenshot when you're ready. But really do this for yourself. Really prepare these things so that you are ready next time you need to prepare for a real negotiation. All right, and with that, I am ready to take your questions. We have 9 minutes, so let me know what questions you may have. I'm going to go close that door. In the meantime, please type up your questions here so that I can address them in the time that we have remaining. Waiting for your questions. Ooh. I should have prepared music or something for this. For this period. All right, let's do questions. I will wait 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes. If I don't have any questions, I'm just going to end this session early. But yeah, this is your chance to give me questions. To give me questions. To give me questions. I'm checking my email in the meantime because juggling everything is life. All right, I am going to wait 30 more seconds. 30 more seconds to send in your question. All right, I don't see any questions, so I'm going to end this stream. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any additional questions, that's my dog scratching himself. If you have any additional questions, let me know in the comments below this video. And I'm going to take that good boy, where is he? That good boy for a walk. Thank you for joining me today. Have a wonderful time of the day you're currently experiencing. Bye.